Liam Brooks, one of the youngest billionaires in New York, froze halfway down the staircase. He had just come home from a business trip in Dubai, expecting to surprise his mother. But what he saw made his heart stop. His mother, Margaret Brooks, the proud, elegant woman who raised him with a strict dignity, was on her knees in the living room, crying. Her silver hair was messy. Her hands trembled as she reached out toward someone standing before her. And that someone was the maid. "Please, Diane," his mother sobbed. "I'm begging you. Don't tell him." "I'll do anything you want," Liam's jaw tightened. "Don't tell me what?" He could barely process what he was seeing. His mother, who never apologized even to her friends, who once fired a driver for being 5 minutes late, was kneeling before their maid. Diane, the maid, stood still, her expression unreadable. She wasn't wearing her uniform today. Just a plain blue dress and old shoes. But there was something in her eyes, something powerful. It wasn't anger. It was pain. "Mrs. Brooks," Diane whispered, "I served this house for 12 years. I never asked for anything, but hiding this secret has eaten me alive. He deserves to know the truth." Liam's pulse raced. What truth? What secret? His mother shook her head violently. "No! You'll ruin everything! Please!" And then Diane looked up, straight at him. Their eyes met. For a split second, no one moved. The maid's lips trembled as she whispered, "Liam, you shouldn't have seen this." His heart pounded as the truth flickered in her eyes, something she had been holding for years. "What truth?" Liam demanded, stepping closer, his voice echoing through the mansion. Diane's eyes filled with tears. "It's about you, Liam," she said softly, "about who you really are." The room fell silent. His mother gasped, covering her mouth as if she'd said too much already. Liam felt cold all over. The walls around him seemed to close in. "What do you mean? Who I really am?" he whispered. Diane hesitated, looking between him and his mother. Her lips parted, and just before she could speak, the front door slammed open. A man's voice shouted, "Nobody says another word!" Liam turned toward the voice, confusion and fear mixing inside him. The man who entered looked oddly familiar. The man who stormed in was tall, broad-shouldered, with a rough beard and a dark jacket that looked out of place in the Brooks mansion's polished glow. His boots thudded against the marble floor as he walked in like he owned the place. Liam blinked. "Who are you?" The man didn't answer right away. His eyes locked onto Margaret, Liam's mother, who looked like she'd seen a ghost. Her face turned pale, her lips trembling as she whispered, "Ethan." Liam frowned. "You know him?" Margaret didn't reply. She just stood there frozen, like the air had been sucked out of the room. The maid Diane lowered her eyes, clutching her hands together as if she'd been waiting for this exact moment and dreading it. Ethan stepped closer. "You weren't supposed to hide it forever, Margaret," he said coldly. "You thought your money could bury the truth, didn't you?" Liam took a step forward, anger sparking in his chest. "You can't just barge into my home and start throwing words around. What's going on here?" The man turned his piercing eyes toward him. "You really don't know, do you?" Liam's heartbeat quickened. "No, what?" Ethan gave a bitter laugh. "You've been living a lie, kid. A lie built on someone else's pain." Margaret gasped and shouted, "Stop it, Ethan! You promised you'd never—" "I promised to protect him," Ethan snapped. "But look where that got us." "He deserves the truth," Liam's fist clenched. "What truth?" Ethan's voice softened. "Your mother isn't who you think she is, and neither are you." Liam stared at him, disbelief clouding his thoughts. "What are you talking about?" Margaret took a shaky step forward, tears in her eyes. "Liam, please don't listen to him. He's only here to destroy everything we built." Ethan shot her a cold glare. "Everything you built, Margaret, on lies, on stolen lives." Diane's eyes brimmed with tears. "Ethan, please, let me tell him. He deserves to hear it from me." Liam turned sharply to her. "Tell me what, Diane?" She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, Margaret screamed, "Don't you dare!" and lunged at her. A loud crash followed as a glass vase shattered against the floor between them. Liam stepped back, stunned, as his mother and the maid stared at each other across the shards. Ethan's voice broke through the chaos, quiet but sharp. Tell him, Diane. Tell him what she did. To your son. The room went dead silent. Liam's eyes widened. Your son? Diane's lips trembled. Yes, Liam. My son Margaret collapsed to her knees again, sobbing uncontrollably, and Liam's world began to spin. Liam's breath caught in his throat. My son? He repeated, staring at Diane as if the words didn't make sense. The maid, no, the woman who'd been like a shadow in their house for over a decade, nodded slowly, her eyes filled with pain. Yes, Liam, she said softly. I had a son. You never met him, because your mother made sure you wouldn't. Margaret cried harder, shaking her head. That's not true, Diane. You don't understand. Don't I? Diane's voice cracked, trembling between anger and heartbreak. You promised to take care of him. You said you'd help me when my boy got sick. And instead you... She stopped herself, covering her mouth as tears streamed down her face. Liam felt dizzy. His mother's sobs filled the air like echoes in an empty church. He looked from one woman to the other, his chest tightening. What happened to your son, Diane? The room went still. Even Ethan lowered his head. After a long pause, Diane whispered, He died. 10 years ago, Liam froze. The words felt heavy, like they fell straight into his chest and stayed there. I was working here, Diane continued, her voice shaking. Your mother knew I couldn't afford his treatment. She promised to help me, said she'd pay for everything. I trusted her. I believed her. Liam glanced at his mother, who now sat on the floor, holding her face in her hands. Diane's voice grew louder, her pain spilling out after years of silence. But when the hospital called saying my boy needed surgery, she said she couldn't be involved. Said it would be bad for her image. By the time I found the money, it was too late. Liam took a step back, his world tilting. Mom, please tell me that's not true. Margaret looked up at him, her eyes swollen with guilt. I didn't mean for him to die. I couldn't let anyone know. I panicked. It would have destroyed our reputation. You were in boarding school. Your father's company was under investigation. You thought your image was more important than a child's life? Ethan cut in, his voice shaking with disgust. You let him die. Stop, Liam yelled, his voice breaking. Everyone went silent. Liam's face was pale, his hands trembling. Mom, how could you do something like that? She trusted you, Margaret broke down, whispering through her tears. I did it for you, Liam. Everything I did was for you. But Liam shook his head slowly, eyes full of disbelief. No, Mom, you did it for yourself. Diane turned away, wiping her tears. There's more, Liam. You deserve to know everything. He looked at her, heart pounding. More? Ethan nodded grimly. Tell him, Diane. Tell him about the letter. Liam's brows furrowed. What letter? Diane's fingers trembled as she reached into her pocket. She pulled out a folded, faded envelope and whispered, This. The letter your father left before he died. The room went silent again, so silent that Liam could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. The letter my father left? He repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. How do you have that, Diane? Diane stared at the old envelope in her trembling hands. The paper was yellowed with age, the edges frayed like it had been hidden for years. Because he gave it to me, she said softly. The night before he died. Liam froze. He gave it to you? Margaret's head snapped up, her voice sharp with fear. Diane, no. Don't do this. Diane looked at her, eyes full of fury and heartbreak. You can't stop the truth anymore, Margaret. You've taken enough. She unfolded the letter with shaking fingers. The handwriting inside was familiar. Neat, strong, and painfully recognizable. It was his father's. Liam's chest tightened as Diane began to read aloud. If you're reading this, it means I never got the chance to tell you what I should have long ago. The truth is, Liam isn't my only son. Liam's eyes widened. He stumbled backwards slightly. What? There is another child. A boy born before Liam, from a woman who worked for us. A woman I loved before I ever met Margaret. Diane's voice broke at the next line. His name is Daniel. Liam blinked rapidly. Daniel, that's your son's name, isn't it? Diane nodded silently, tears sliding down her cheeks. Margaret clutched the edge of the couch, her face pale. Stop it, please, she whispered. He doesn't need to know this. But Ethan stepped closer. He deserves to know it, Margaret. You destroyed their family to protect your lies. Diane's hands trembled as she read the final part. If anything happens to me, please tell Liam the truth. Tell him that Daniel is his brother. I wanted to give them both the same chance in life, but I fear Margaret will never allow it. Diane folded the letter, her lips trembling. He trusted me to keep it safe. But I was too scared. Until now, Liam's legs felt weak. He dropped into a nearby chair, staring at nothing. Daniel? Was my brother? Diane nodded slowly. Yes, Liam. You and Daniel share the same father. Margaret's sobs filled the air again. I didn't mean for any of it to happen, she cried. Your father betrayed me, and when I found out, You took it out on an innocent child, Diane snapped, her voice trembling with rage. You made sure he never got the help he needed. Liam's head spun. Every truth he thought he knew was collapsing around him. His family, his childhood, his entire life. I had a brother, he whispered, his voice breaking, and you let him die. Margaret covered her face, sobbing. Ethan stepped forward, placing a hand on Diane's shoulder. It's time he sees everything, Diane. The photo. Liam looked up sharply. What photo? Diane reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a small, crumpled picture. Her hands shook as she handed it to Liam. He stared down at it. Two little boys in the same hospital bed, one of them unmistakably him. The other looked almost identical, and written on the back, in his father's handwriting, were 6 words that made his stomach drop. My sons. Liam and Daniel. Forever brothers. Liam's vision blurred with tears. I had a twin, he whispered. The air in the room felt thick, heavy, like time itself had stopped. Margaret tried to speak, but no words came. And just then, a knock echoed from the front door. Everyone turned toward it, frozen. Ethan's jaw tightened. It's him, he muttered. Liam looked at him, confused. Who? Ethan's expression darkened. The one who's been waiting all these years to make you pay for what happened to Daniel. The knock came again, louder this time, echoing through the marble halls like thunder. Liam's throat tightened. What do you mean, make me pay? I didn't even know about any of this. Ethan's eyes didn't move from the door. It's not you he blames, Liam. It's your name. Your family. Margaret stood up shakily, clutching the arm of the sofa for balance. He can't be here, she whispered, her voice trembling. I told him never to come near this house again. Liam turned sharply. Who is it, Mom? She didn't answer. Her eyes darted to the front door again, wide with fear. Ethan walked to the entrance and opened it. A tall man stepped inside, young, maybe late 20s, wearing a worn black jacket and holding a weathered photo in his hand. His face was pale, his eyes hollow yet burning with something deep. Pain, anger, and confusion all at once. Diane gasped softly, a hand over her heart. Michael, she whispered. The man looked up. Hello, Mother. Liam blinked, frozen. Mother? Diane nodded slowly, her lips trembling. This is my son, Liam. My Daniel is gone. But this is his twin. My other boy. The world tilted around Liam again. What? Michael took a few steps forward, his eyes fixed on Margaret. You remember me, don't you? He said quietly. You told my mother I wasn't welcome here. You said people like me didn't belong in your world. Margaret's breath hitched. I was trying to protect my family. Protect? Michael said, his voice sharp with disbelief. You protected your lies. He turned to Liam, eyes glinting with bitterness. And while I grew up scraping for food, you had everything. The name, the empire, the life that should have been mine too. Liam's voice cracked. I didn't know, Michael. I swear to you, I didn't. For a long moment, Michael didn't speak. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver bracelet, a hospital tag. This belonged to Daniel, he said softly. My brother. Your twin. He died while you lived in this mansion, Surrounded by everything he never had, he dropped the bracelet into Liam's palm. The cold metal felt heavier than gold. Tears filled Liam's eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I would have helped if I'd known." "Please believe me." Michael's gaze softened, just a little. The anger in his face began to crumble, revealing years of hurt buried underneath. Diane wiped her eyes. "Michael, this isn't Liam's fault. He's innocent. Don't let hate make you like them." Michael looked down, his jaw tight. Then he turned toward Margaret. "I didn't come here for revenge," he said quietly. "I came to show you what your choices did. To make you live with the truth." Margaret's voice broke. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," he said. "I already have what you don't. Peace." He turned to leave, but Liam grabbed his arm. "Wait. Don't go, please. If Daniel was my brother, then so are you." Michael stared at him for a long moment, the tension between them heavy but human. Then slowly, he nodded. "Maybe one day, I'll believe that." He walked out into the night. Margaret collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably. Diane knelt beside her, crying too, but not from anger this time, from release. Liam stood still, holding the silver bracelet tightly in his hand. His father's words from the letter echoed in his head. "My sons, Liam and Daniel, forever brothers." And as he looked at the door where Michael had just left, a tear slipped down his cheek. He whispered into the silence, "I'll find you again, brother."